Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. It's your man, God of Dots, man. We are back. Hope everybody's having a very good day. Hope you're having a very good week, Miss Murph. Yes, I know you'll be back 8:20. I want to hear all about your adventures for the summer. Yeah, I want to hear all about it. I don't think I shared that with everybody, but yeah, Miss Murphy is on one of those grown folks vacations, but and we'll catch up with her whenever she gets back to being around full time. But enjoy your time off, ma'am. Enjoy your time off. Trust me, I get it, man. I got some more time up, coming up anyway. But we are back, man. Tuesday. If you came in, training camp started this week. We broke down some of the questions going into training camp for all the AFC teams. Not really. I didn't go into full detail, giving my predictions and all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of some of the stuff that I'm watching, things I'll be looking for as training camp starts. And tonight we will be breaking down the NFC. Maybe doing a show tomorrow, working on trying to get some material together to kind of put together something. Trying to put together something. And we'll see how that kind of goes. But tonight, like I said, we'll be breaking down the NFC, and it's only right. It's only right to start in the NFC. My team plays in this conference. Them boys, you know what it is. That was Cowboys. But we will be starting with the team the many pick to win this division. One of the teams I think is when you were talking about the NFC is clearly are going to be on the tier one of teams, and when we're talking about NFC contenders for a possible Super Bowl run, and that's namely the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles made some moves this all season, bringing in Saquon Barkley, extended some of their players, gave out big contracts. I'm gonna say this about Philadelphia, and the same kind of rings true for Dallas to a degree. One of the things I'm looking for in training camp, how much more comfortable will Jalen Hurts be in this offense going forward. Last year was a bit of a struggle for him, especially coming off a near MVP performance 2 years ago. Last year, it just didn't seem like it was a click, and we talked about it all season long in regard to Philadelphia's offense, how it seemed kind of disjointed. It was like it was a breakdown of communication somewhere. Now they did get rid of the offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, and now Nick Sirianni has taken more control of the offense to a degree. And they also brought in Kellen Moore, former offensive coordinator for them boys. But I'm curious to see what Jalen Hurts kind of looks like coming into training camp. Does he, is it, last season a blip on the radar of his rise to the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL, or was it more of a, is it going to be the standard going forward? I don't know. I'm going to be watching very closely as training camp starts. And when I was talking about it at the beginning, when I was talking about the Eagles and the Cowboys, one of the main questions I'm going to have for both teams is it's giving off a vibe. And for various reasons, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, with the amount of money that they have invested into this team, as far as some of the major contracts, you're talking about Jalen Hurts playing on $51 million. Saquon Barkley comes in with a big deal. AJ Brown gets extended. Devontae Smith gets extended. It's a lot of money. And one thing about the NFL salary cap is kind of with the exception of maybe the Kansas City Chiefs, salary cap has played a large part in teams trying to maximize their window. And I think Philadelphia, for me, when I look at them, it's kind of a make or break year. It's kind of a make or break year when I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, especially with the amount of money that they have invested into this team. Now, this is a very talented team, and I am a Cowboys fan, but I am when I'm doing this job, I am not a hater. I just got to break down what it is. Philadelphia has a very talented. What's going on, Get a Girl? Anybody but Dallas? Listen, I'm not picking. I'm not doing my predictions just yet. But that may be something we get into next week, or maybe something we get into as preseason kind of start. I'm not picking anybody just yet, but I'm just kind of breaking it down. Philadelphia, to me, like I said, with the contracts that they gave out, it's going to be hard to kind of keep this team as currently constructed together going forward. And like I said, I'm watching. I'm gonna be watching Jalen Hurts' progression, new offense, new scheme. Was like I said, was last year a blip, or was it? What Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback. Let's not mince words with it. Um, Jalen Hurts, is second tier at best. He had one MVP candidate season a couple years ago, but I think where Jalen Hurts is to me, when I watched him play, and I watched him play at Bama, and I know you love this Gator girl, Roll Tide. He's more of a more of a Cam Newton like to say a game manager, more of a game manager. But we'll see if Philadelphia with the new changes on the offensive side as far as the scheme, will Philadelphia really take off, especially with the addition of Saquon Barkley. So that is something I will be watching. Speaking of watching, of course, I will be watching the Dallas Cowboys, and some of the same things I was talking about as far as the Philadelphia Eagles is talking about this being a make or break year. That has got to be one of the questions going into training camp as far as the Cowboys are concerned. You got guys that are looking to get paid. It's already been reported that CeeDee Lamb is not showing up to training camp until he gets a new deal. You still have the looming contract decision to be made on Dak Prescott. To me, the success of the season can really, I think this is a make or break year for the Dallas Cowboys going forward. One of the things I will be watching also during this training camp cycle is the maturation and the maturation of the offensive line. You have some new pieces on the offensive line, guys being moved around. Tyron Smith, long-time left tackle, is no longer with the team. Still trying to figure out what the projected lineup on the offensive line is going to look like. So that is something I will be watching closely in training camp. And, with CeeDee Lamb not showing up to camp, how long does his holdout last? One thing we know about NFL players, there's only one NFL player, to my knowledge. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure Gator Girl will correct me if I'm wrong. But it's only one NFL player I know who is held out for an extended period of time until he got a new deal, and that's Le'Veon Bell. And, his career was never the same. After that holdout, typically, this stuff kind of gets resolved either with a new contract or, a promise to negotiate throughout the season or something of that nature. But I'm watching the CeeDee Lamb situation closely. Because you got Dak, you got CeeDee's got to get paid. Michael Parsons has got to get paid. This is one of the struggles of having a talented team. Sometimes you're going to have to make some hard decisions on who gets what and who gets paid to do what. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the San Francisco 49ers. But as far as Dallas, going to be watching the offensive line, see how they kind of come together, and the CeeDee Lamb situation. How long does he stay out? Now, continuing on with the NFC East, you have the New York Giants. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what direction this team is going. You lose Saquon Barkley, who was the best offensive weapon that you have. Your offensive line, despite having some high draft picks along that offensive line, didn't really improve. Then you have Daniel Jones coming off an injury. You have Daniel Jones coming off an injury. I know he got the big contract prior to him getting hurt, but I look at this could be a make or break situation for him also. When we're talking about this team may be able to move off of him as far as money wise, it's because his contract is nasty work. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's nasty work. But they can move off his contract this upcoming season. Now, the question with that is, this is not a very the quarterback class coming in right now is not being projected to be the same quality of quarterback as you had this season. So I'm curious to see what Daniel Jones looks like coming off an ACL injury. No Saquon Barkley for the first time in a long time. What direction does this team take as far as their offensive style? I think the questions you have for the Giants got to come on the offensive side of the ball. I think the defense is going to be okay. But I'm curious to see when, is they're going to put the ball more in Daniel Jones' hands, or they're going to try to open it up more. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but that's something I'm going to be watching for in training camp. What kind of offensive philosophy do the Giants have going into this upcoming season? And to kind of round out with the NFC East, you have the Washington Commanders. I think the only story most people be watching as far as Washington's camp is the progression of rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. I'm curious to see will they tailor the offense more towards his dual threat ability, or will he fall into I'm gonna start calling it the Justin Fields trap, where they try to take a guy who is clearly a two-way kind of player. When I mean two-way, for my sports fans, y'all know the guys that can move with their feet and throw the ball. Are they going to try to get him to be more of a pocket passer coming out of the gate? I'm not sure. That's something I'm going to be watching for as training camp starts with the Commanders. I like Jaden Daniels coming out of college. I like some of the pieces that they have on this team. I mean, this offense wasn't bad last year, even with Sam Howell at quarterback, leading the league in interceptions. Defense has the potential to be a lot better this upcoming season, but I think all questions begin and end with the quarterback position as far as the Commanders is concerned. Is Jaden Daniels going to be ready to be QB1 when we start week 1? How far along in his progression will it be? And if he's not QB1, how long until he is QB1? So that's going to be one of the things I'm looking for as far as training camp news with the Washington Commanders. As we move on through the NFC, we're going to go to the NFC North. You have the Chicago Bears moving off of Justin Fields, trading him this offseason. Some of the same questions I have as far as Jaden Daniels, I'm going to have the same questions for Caleb Williams, but I do think Caleb Williams is in a little better of an offensive situation as far as the receiver talent that he has, and the offensive talent that Chicago clearly went out and said, this is, let me spill on the Bears a little bit. See, this is what the kind of stuff you do when you have a rookie quarterback that you are trying to build around and really trying to invest in. You go get guys, go get him weapons. Go get him weapons. Now, you look at the talent that they brought in to Chicago this offseason. You bring in number one draft pick Caleb Williams. You bring in a first-round wide receiver Roma Dunze, very good. I thought it was a very good wide receiver at Washington. You bring in DeAndre Swift, who, for lack of better terms, had a very good start to his Eagles career last year. They kind of faded off of him, but then you bring in Keenan Allen. You bring in Keenan Allen, number one receiver coming over from the Chargers. And what you have there in Chicago, with the exception of maybe the offensive line issues, you have a lot of talent around the rookie quarterback. You have two guys. I think DJ Moore is a number one receiver. Keenan Allen has served in that role. I think he'd be more suited as a number two at this stage of his career. Then you have the big time rookie receiver also. So he has talent around him. Plus you have DeAndre Swift in that backfield, who is a threat coming out as a dual threat running back. I like what they have in Chicago, but much like I said with Jaden Daniels, I'm going to be watching the progression of Caleb Williams. Will he be ready to go week 1? I think Chicago will be a much improved team, but I'm curious to see how far along in his progression is Caleb Williams. Speaking of progression and being along, we're going to move on to the Detroit Lions, who you guys have been following me since even I was in the other space doing the show. You guys know I'm very high on Detroit. They was my sleeper pick for the last couple of years. This is not a sleeper pick anymore. This is not a sleeper team. Detroit is clearly, to me, when we're talking about NFC teams, or we're talking about the NFC teams alone, Detroit is a team. You got Caleb Williams, rookie of the year. Listen, I'm not mad at that kid, girl. When you look at the talent around him, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that pick. When you look at what he has around him, is much better than what Jaden Daniels has in Washington. Typically, rookie of the year goes to the quarterback, but I think Caleb Williams is in a situation. I mean, other than a stellar offensive line, you can't ask for much better starting help for him. You have DJ Moore, who's the number one. Keenan Allen has served as a number one. Roma Dunze may one day be a number one. Then you have DeAndre Swift coming in. So it's a lot of talent around them. But back to talking about the Detroit Lions. Detroit, like I said, is a tier 1 team to me. This offense is explosive. One of the things I'm going to be watching for this training camp is who is ready to step up on the defensive side of the ball. As good as this offense was last year. This defense kind of ebbed and flowed, was kind of up and down, and it kind of cost them later in the season. Just you want to compete for a Super Bowl, you got to be able to play a little bit better defense in Detroit. Like, it's cool that you can run up and down the field and score with the best of them, but when we're talking about getting into November, December, January, your defense needs to be on point. If your defense is not playing, to me, and this is just my personal opinion, if your defense at that point of the season, may not be through the course of the season, but at that point of the season, if they're not playing a top 10, top 12-ish type defense, if they're not playing at that level, I don't think you have a realistic shot at a Super Bowl. Every team that has made the Super Bowl, whether the defense was strong all year round, when they came time to November, especially late November, going into December, that real playoff push, defense is kind of locked in. Detroit, that's going to be one of the things I'm looking at, who is ready to step up and take this defense to the next level, because offensively they can go blow for blow with anybody. They can go blow for blow with anybody. I think Jared Goff is a very good quarterback for the system, but defense has got to be the question going into this training camp. Is the defense ready to step up and match the level of the offense? If they can do that, if the Lions defense can step up to that level of that offense, I can make an argument. Y'all know me. I can make an argument Detroit being the favorite, but we'll talk about that more as we get into roster breakdowns. Continuing on with the NFC North, the team that kind of put my team out and exposed some of the flaws that we have in Dallas last season, the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, does he continue his progression? Had a very good year last year. A lot of people kind of slept on him. It wasn't, he wasn't talked about in that vein because the team, the team didn't have a lot of regular season success that a lot of people was watching, but it can't, the light bulb kind of went off around week 7, week 8 last year. And Jordan Love was playing as one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the NFC, but in the NFL. Had a very, 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 very good year. I'm curious to see, was it, much like we talked about with Jalen Hurts, was it a blip, or is this going to be the standard going forward? I think Jordan Love, with the time that he's sat on the bench, first year starting, I'm curious to see what it looks like in year 2, because typically in year 1, you can kind of surprise defenses because they haven't seen you. It's not a lot of film on you. Coming into the season, it's clear you're number 1. Yeah, you're entrenched in as the franchise quarterback of this team. It gets a little tougher when teams are able to get film on you. So I'm curious to see, is Jordan Love ready to take that next step into upper echelon of quarterbacks, and not just in the NFC, but in this league. I like the addition. You switch out Aaron Jones, bring in Josh Jacobs, who I think is a very good running back still. Bringing him over from the Raiders, but training camp news, as far as I'm concerned, Green Bay Packers it's all Jordan Love. It's all Jordan Love. Is he ready to take that next step to reach that upper tier? Because he has the talent. He has the talent to do it. But we'll see for this upcoming season. Closing out the NFC North, you got the Minnesota Vikings moving on from Kirk Cousins. We want to talk about him a little bit later in the show. Moving on from Kirk Cousins, is J.J. McCarthy, going to really push Sam Darnold for the starting job in training camp? That's got to be quarterback position. Has got to be the question you have with the Minnesota Vikings after moving off of Kirk Cousins, who they tried to keep, but the money kind of got in the way as far as like the guarantee money. Y'all, if you've been following football, Kirk Cousins is about the guaranteed buck. I ain't mad at you, bro. I ain't mad at you at all. But how soon until J.J. McCarthy, who they drafted in the first round, comes in my opinion, and this is me, comes in a bit overrated considering the production he put up at Michigan, albeit they won the national championship last year. It wasn't like J.J. McCarthy was lighting it up. I'm just going to keep it a buck. But how soon can he be ready to take over the starting job from Sam Darnold, who is still a serviceable quarterback in this league, but got to be seen as more of a placeholder? How soon does J.J. McCarthy get in tune with this offense and really takes over and be the future quarterback 1 for this team. I'm not sure about that. Like I said, yeah, JJ McCarthy to me was a bit overrated going through into the draft, but quarterbacks typically are. Quarterbacks typically are, especially when a team is in need of a quarterback. But we'll see. And that's one of the things I want to be watching for training camps, the quarterback battle they have out there in Minnesota. Speaking of former quarterbacks, you have Kirk Cousins, who's moved on to the Atlanta Falcons. Coming off of an injury, how good does he look? Does he really take some of the weapons and tools that they have in Atlanta? Does he take this team to the next level? Y'all know last year, anytime Desmond Ridder was the starter, I was picking against the Falcons. I think he held that team back with some of his turnovers, some of his decision making. Kirk Cousins is an upgrade, a clear upgrade from the quarterback that you had last year. And I think with some of the weapons, I'm expecting a bigger season out of Bijan Robinson. I'm expecting a bigger season out of Kyle Pitts. I'm expecting a bigger season out of Drake London with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. But we'll see how well does he look coming back off of an injury. And if he's not ready, how prepared is first round quarterback who they drafted I thought was a reach at number 8, Michael Penix Jr. How soon will he be ready to play if Kirk Cousins is not back? Is not back to playing at the level that he's used to playing. I'm not a hater, Kirk Cousins, but you are what you are in this world, man. You are what you are in this world. But I'm curious to see what that quarterback looks like. I think Kirk Cousins should be back to playing at the level he was playing at. He had a very good start last year before he got hurt, but it's always kind of touch and go when you have players, coming back, especially quarterbacks coming back off of injury. Can they get into that rhythm? New team, new offense. That's one of the things I'll be watching for the Falcons come this training camp cycle. Quarterback is going to be a big part of these training camp questions going forward. And, continue along that theme. You have the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, very bad rookie year. I'm not going to put it all on Bryce, but he deserves his fair share of the blame. Very bad year for a rookie. You have a new head coach comes in. So you're talking about a new head coach, new scheme. Can he fix what's going on in Carolina? Is Bryce Young going to be better in his second year? I mean, he got beat up last year. Granted, Carolina didn't have a lot of talent around him. They tried to bring in some talent this offseason, bringing in Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. But is Bryce Young ready to take the next step in his evolution? If not, this might be. And I hate to say this for the number 1 overall pick, but this might be, Bryce Young's, last year if he don't kind of show some improvement in Carolina, because you know how the NFL works. Typically, when a head coach gets hired, he wants to bring in his own guy, and Bryce Young is not, not his guy. So if Bryce Young has another year like he did last year, team may be looking to move on. So quarterback play, quarterback progression. I'm be watching Bryce Young. If you haven't shown any remarkable improvement, this might be your last year in Carolina. And it's sad to say after 2 years, but this is a league. What have you done for me lately? What you did in college don't mean jack. Do not mean jack. How you doing, Dr. Nick? Hey, Miss VS. I'm sorry, y'all. I've been like clicking those screens and stuff. What's going on, Spot 'em? Continuing with the NFC South, you have the New Orleans Saints. Offensive line, probably the biggest question I have going into training camp with them. With the injuries that they've had to the right tackle and the left tackle, they've moved some guys around. That's about the biggest question I have for this team. I know what I'm gonna get from David, David Carr. I know what I'm getting from Carr, so it's not a lot to be excited about, unless you're a Saints fan. I'm sorry. Unless you're a Saints fan, it's not much to be excited about. One thing I'm also watching, Alvin Kamara left training camp. Excuse me, not training camp, but left mini camp earlier this all season. Is his contract thing going to be a thing lingering over the team. The Saints do not have the best salary cap situation in the league, having to cut, veterans and all of that kind of stuff over the last couple of years to kind of get out from under the, right at the cap limit. But yeah, I think offensive line. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. It's offensive line, man. Offensive line. Moving forward, close it out with the NFC side. We talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is Baker Mayfield that dude? He just got the big contract, had a very good year last year. I think the defense is still going to be playing at a high level. The question I have is, Baker Mayfield, is he here to stay, or will it be more of what we see from Baker Mayfield throughout his career, which is a lot of up and down play? I think, with the weapons that he has in Tampa Bay, I think he'll be able to repeat the success that he had last year. But, the expectations are higher. He didn't have any expectations last year. It was kind of a prove it year for him. Now that you proved it, now that you got the money, the expectations go back up. And considering how this team kind of got punked out last year at the end of the season, what kind of heart did this team have? What kind of heart did this team have? As we get ready to close out the NFC breakdown, we're moving on to the NFC West. I'm going to say the 49ers for last. And I get tired. I get tired of having to say this when we talk about the NFC. But, once again, questions going into training camp. Kyler Murray, is he going to be that dude returning late last year from an ACL injury? Is he all the way back yet? Is he going to be able to adapt his game? Is he going to be running more? They did bring in some weapons for him. Finally got to, in my opinion, the best wide receiver coming into the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that combination has the potential, keyword being potential, has the potential to be special. In Arizona, I think considering what they did last year, even though it didn't end off with a playoff appearance, this team played hard, played full 4 quarters. And I think, with Kyler Murray back, and if Kyler Murray is healthy and locked in mentally, Arizona may be I ain't gonna lie to you, maybe one of my sleeper picks to kind of sneak into the playoffs in the NFC. The NFC is not as deep as the AFC in Arizona. I think if Kyler Murray is able to show that he's, playing at the level he was playing before injury, not that he played bad once he came back, but it wasn't quite the same. If he's back to playing at the Pro Bowl level that he's capable of playing at, you might have something in Arizona. They made some changes along the defensive line, brought in some talent. We'll see how that kind of meshes out, but I know that this team plays hard. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, but I'm curious to see Kyler Murray. I'm almost getting tired of talking about quarterbacks. Here we go. I can move off of quarterbacks. The Los Angeles Rams, as we move on, how do you replace Aaron Donald? I think the Rams had a very good year. All things considered, you had the explosion of rookie wide receiver at the time, Puka Nacua. You still have Cooper Kupp up there, and I think what a lot of people missed, if you wasn't watching the Rams like that last year, this defense with all the young players that they had starting last year. I knew it was going to be kind of a work in progress, but I think the defense would be better as far as on an individual basis. But how do you replace the production and presence of Aaron Donald? That's got to be the biggest question I have for this defense, because with Aaron Donald in the middle, sliding out to the end, it makes life easier. Makes life easier for the other guys on defense. Now you take him out of the equation, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. You take him out of the equation. Does his defense kind of take a step back? I think offensively they're going to be fine as long as Matthew Stafford is upright and healthy. I think the offense will be fine. Defense, does the presence or removal of Aaron Donald change the fortunes of this defense? Because the guys got reps, they got better as the season went on. Who's ready to step up and take the mantle of leader of this defense. That's going to be one of the things I'm watching in training camp. As we get ready to close out, 2 teams left on the list. You have the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll era is over. So what is the culture? What is the mentality? What is the philosophy for the Seahawks going forward? I know Geno Smith had a bit of an up and down season last year. You still have talent on the offensive side of the ball. I think overall as a team, what does this team look like? What is the philosophy of the team? Meaning, are this going to be more of a push the ball down the field kind of team? Is it going to lean more towards the offense, or with some of the additions that they made on the defensive side of the ball, is this going to return back to the Legion of Boom era? I think offensively, if guys can stay healthy, I think they'll be okay. Defensively, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but overall, as a team, this is first time in a long time Pete Carroll's not been the head coach on the sidelines. What is the culture going to look like? You talk about new head coach, new schemes. We'll see. That's got to be one of the biggest questions going into training camp. And as we close out training camp for the NFC, much like I talked about with the Dallas Cowboys, much like I talked about with the Philadelphia Eagles at the beginning of the show, probably the only thing that I'm watching, clearly San Francisco is tier 1. Maybe the best team in the NFC, maybe the best team in the NFL. It depends on who you ask. Clearly. I'm a Cowboy fan through and through, but San Francisco is on paper, as currently constructed, the best team in the NFC. I'm not ashamed to say that. I think, I'm not saying they're far away the best team, but clearly the best team, the team that made the Super Bowl, returns a lot of the same talent. Now, the question that I have with San Francisco, this training camp, what do you do with the Brock Purdy situation? Because we talked about contracts with Dallas, we talked about contracts with Philadelphia. He's due for an extension next year. And the way that Brock Purdy has played, he's played his way into that upper echelon as far as contracts are concerned for quarterback. Can you keep the team together currently constructed? Because they, much like Dallas, much like Philadelphia, you can only juggle so many big contracts at one time. You already heard Brandon Ayuk this past offseason request a trade out of there. It was kind of touch and go with Deebo Samuel. I mean, they just paid Christian McCaffrey. You're still paying Kittle. You got to find some money for Ayuk or trade him. But then you still have to set aside money for Brock Purdy. Listen, Brock Purdy, I don't suspect is going to be taking a very team-friendly deal, considering, it's not like he's making the big bucks, because he's, we're talking about a guy that was drafted in the 7th round. Yeah, he's not making buku money, so this is a chance to cash in, and especially with the way that he played last year, we could be talking, top 10-ish in quarterback contracts, and that's a lot of money. San Francisco, this might be, their last year is currently constructed. This could be a make or break year for the 49ers. This could be a make or break year for the 49ers, because Brock Purdy is about to get paid. He's about to get paid, but you got to make a decision. Who's getting what money? Who's getting a contract restructured? Who's getting let go? Eventually, you got to move on from guys. This is how the salary cap era works. So that is probably the biggest question I have for the 49ers. That, I think outside of the contract stuff, I think they'll be fine on the field. Clearly tier 1, clearly the best team in the NFC. I ain't afraid to say it. But that's about it, y'all. That's about it. I actually made it through. Never would have made it. I made it through. Housekeeping before I kind of get up out of here. It's been kind of an up and down week myself, but before I kind of get up out of here, tomorrow may or may not be a show. If you see the thumbnail, that means I kind of got enough material to kind of do a show. If not, then I don't like to force those. Of course, I'll be doing the show in the other space. We'll be doing the show with the homie Slander on Saturday. I think Saturday. Or we may be taking another week off. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to little old me. It's always appreciated. Thumbs up, thumbs down, like, share, all that good. I ain't that good as a promoter like that. But let me get my behind up out of here. End you off with the phrase that pays. And Miss Murph, enjoy the rest of your trip. I can't wait to hear about it when you get back. Make sure when you get back, I want you to hit the link because I want to hear all about that experience over here, of course. Over here, of course. But end you off with the phrase that pays around here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Hold on. Oh, but every time you learn. Y'all have a good night, man. I'm out.